about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back in the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So for those of you watching graduation videos, you've seen a lot of boos as the graduates are booing some of these CEO or techie people talking about how AI is the best thing since sliced bread. And you know, these college students are blaming AI for them not getting jobs. And when I see article after article saying, no, it's not AI's fault, it's Trump's tariffs or something like that. I'm like, the thing is, all right, even if CEOs don't believe that AI is displacing jobs, whether it's the displacement or your application isn't getting seen. Nobody's even looking at your application. AI is playing a role in people being unemployed. So when I do meet somebody who's employed, I ask them, how did you get the job? None of them said it was an initial random applied online. Every single one of them, I'm sorry, I might sneeze. See, I'm sneezing on the truth. Every single one of them said, I met somebody, I knew somebody, and they told me how to apply. Now, when my sons were in high school, and they're like, I need to get a job, and go pavement pound. That's what I did. Like, what are you talking about? I would walk to store, say, are you hiring? Let me fill out an application. I'd fill out the application. I'd say, thank you. I'd be really, really nice to the manager, because they'll either star it or not. And then I would go on to the next place. And you would pavement pound. And so when my kids start, they go, no. They tell you to go online and apply. So now you're just a blank image on the screen. But everybody and their mother is telling me who's unemployed that when they apply online, nothing. So let's go back to old school. All right. So how do you meet face to face? Now, if you try to walk into a company and say, I want to go to the HR department, they're going to say they work remote. There is no HR department. Go leave. Go apply online. So that's not going to help. So you might have to be a little bit more savvy. So let's say there's a business firm you want to work for, or let's say there's a hospital you want to work for. What you might want to do is ask about internship opportunities. Now, I know some of you are like, I'm not working for free. I'm not working for peanuts. I'm like, well, at least you're doing something than sitting home getting your applications rejected. So if there is a firm, say, look, do you take interns? That brings you to a different department. Okay, now it could be because if HR is not answering you, if they don't seem to be looking at or maybe there's not an HR department and just somebody is like looking at the AI software or the whatever LinkedIn or the ZipRecruiter, and you're just not getting through. You'll get through if there's something else. I told you how I got a job in an ER when there was no urgent care openings. This was in the 90s. And I called up and I say, do you have a job? This is what I can do. And they're like, no, we're just looking for ER docs. And I said, well, what do you pay the ER doc? And they told me, and I go, well, what if you pay me half? But then I'll do all the urgent care fast track stuff. I mean, I was able to talk to a person and I got hired right away. So you got to get to that person. I understand things are different from the 90s, but they're not different if everybody I know that got a job knew somebody who they interned with, loved them, so that they could walk over to HR or now email them, because many people are still working remote, and say, look, this is somebody that I think, well, because there is still a person involved in the hiring process. So you need to figure out how to get to that person. You need to figure out how to know that person. Now, I've heard individuals ask me, how do I get a job in a medical school? So if you know the dean, that's happy, but they don't let you just access the dean. There's all these, the dean doesn't even look at their emails, and there's somebody that won't even But what if you, again, you reach out and say, look, do you need any volunteers? Do you need any, people that can, come in and help you out on a day when you don't have anybody? No pay. Well, then they meet you, they see how you are, and say, look, whenever you do have a paid position, I want you to consider me. So, that 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Paula Abdul, great song, but it's something I've lived my life by. You keep thinking to yourself, well, I just need to move forward. If I do anything for free, I'm going to get stuck. Or friend zone with dating is a perfect example. I talk to a lot of the students and younger people who I mentor. They talk to me about dating and all that. And they're like, well, the problem is once I see they just want to become friends, I'm like, no, because I don't want to get stuck in the friend zone. And I'm like, how many times people end up with their best friend, with their friend? I know you think that's a step back, but that might be the only way you get 2 steps forward. So for those of you that are applying and it's just not working, you could still do that. But if there's a place you really, really want to be and you have nothing that's really now occupying your time, try to see what you could, and if anybody's like, well, that's odd, why are you asking to work here for free? And say, look, I'm looking for internship opportunities because I really want to work for your firm. And I've applied online and, I want to know what you need so that I could hopefully later be a part of your team. And so it might take some sacrificing of time, some sacrificing of some money, because you're not working there, and you might have to wait tables or something in the meantime, which I really love. And I'll go back to waiting tables in a heartbeat. I really had a lot of fun with that. But go back to old school. How did other people get jobs in the past? Let them notice you. How else can you be noticed? Is it that you made their life easier? So let's say there's a let's say there's a teacher, and they're struggling with school supplies, and so you're organizing a school drive. You're organizing like tools for teachers, where not only are you getting school supplies for kids, but you're doing that for teachers. Showing that sort of gumption and work at least gets you noticed, and so people know who you are. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. Because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. We'll help you find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. If you were hurt in a car accident, truck accident, motorcycle accident, rideshare accident, slip and fall, or any other type of accident, call our 24/7 hotline now and let us help you find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-978-6800. That's 800-978-6800. 800-978-6800. I'm Gina Hart, here with spokesman Jack Mercer. So Jack, tell our listeners who should give us a call right now.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me join you here in the studio. It's always great to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. The call is free, the consultation is free, and with our no-fee guarantee, you pay nothing unless we win you money.
That's great advice. Thanks, Jack. And is it true that the Legal Help Center is open 24/7?
That's right, Gina. We're open anytime you need us, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, call now and let us help you find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-978-6800. That's 800-978-6800. 800-978-6800. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. Not available in California. May not be available in all states.
And we're back on the Dr. Dolly Show, 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So a big complaint I'm getting from many listeners is how, they didn't keep their doctor during Obamacare, which we predicted, right? Obama said you get to keep your doctor. And you're getting a different doctor every day, every time you get seen or you call into telemedicine. Because the telemedicine company you work for, they're different doctors, and whoever, sees you in the queue, you could ask for a specific doctor and you could try to do primary care side of things. But most of your teledoc companies, etc., you get a random doctor. And that, at first, scared a lot of medical providers going, well, wait a second. We could be missing things. But these companies came up with guidelines. And, what you should do when you should refer out, like pneumonia. Pneumonia should not be treated online. I think a lot of doctors are doing it. But after we saw what happened with Kyle Busch and after what I've seen in training, I don't treat pneumonia over the phone. Pneumonia can be deadly and it could turn into sepsis. You should be examined. We need to know where the pneumonia is, which lobe, how bad it is, how your oxygen status is, and if you're healing. So I look at pneumonia very seriously. But one issue that I didn't think we were going to have as it pertains to telemedicine, which you guys have been telling me is a big issue, is you have a different diagnosis and a different approach depending on the doctor you get. Now, in the olden days, you had gonorrhea, you got penicillin. You had chicken pox, you were told to use fluids and calamine lotion. You had a cold, you take some chicken soup. I mean, it was pretty just common type things that you would do. Get a tick bite, we'll do some doxycycline prophylaxis. I mean, there's standards of care. They still exist in medicine. But many of you are saying, no. You'll have one doctor say you need an x-ray, another doctor not. You'll have one doctor say you have to go to the ER, another doctor won't. They'll say treat at home. And many of you are confused, just like we're confused with the Supreme Court justices, how they're all not, you got conservative and liberal judges. That really confuses me when you're supposed to be going into law neutrally. Many of you are confused going, why are two doctors on opposite sides of the spectrum? Now, mind you, all right, I mean, if we examined you in an urgent care and you had a fracture, it is going to be that you have a fracture, you're getting splinted, then sent to ortho, getting casted, non-weight bearing until you're able to gain to bear weight until we think you're getting union of the. I mean, there's standards of care. But when it's over the phone, I'm noticing there's a lot of, I guess more. It's more fluid. So, for example, I had a patient who was, I think, 12 days out from a severe hot oil burn of his foot and toes. Now, I did burn care in my training. Day one of burn care, we learned if you burn your face, hands, feet, genitalia, you got to go to the ER for burn care. Or if you have a burn that's a large part of your body, you're going to have to go to burn care. Especially hands, face, feet, genitalia. So I asked him, I go, did you go to the ER? You had a burn of your foot? And he said, no. The doctor didn't say I had to. So he had seen another telemedicine doctor who said to use, topical antibiotic ointment. Well, now it's 12 days out. He's getting fluid release. And to me, it doesn't look like it's healing. So I told him, you got to go to the ER. And you need burn care. You need to get this cleaned up. We need to, why would a burn fester? Well, we talked about that. When you have injured skin from a burn or from hot oil or from frostbite and it kills the skin, your body can only do so much getting rid of dead, damaged tissue. So what we do in burn care is a variety of things. One is debriding any dead or unhealthy skin, even to the macroscopic level. not necessarily overly microscopic, but to the millimeter, if possible, to try to save your good skin and allow it to grow. We use proper bandages. We might have to do antibiotics. We watch for compression syndrome, infection, swelling, cellulitis, sepsis. But we take care of the wound so that we hope your skin can grow. And if it's severe, sometimes we have to graft skin from a healthy part of the body to the burn area. And burns of the hand, face, feet, genitalia are a lot more fickle, unpredictable in their healing. So he actually doesn't have a problem with, the previous advice because he got to stay home. He's mad at me. And he's like, look, I don't want to go to the ER. Just give me something. I go, I'm looking at your, it looks bad. It looks swollen, discolored. This is kind of what you need to do. In fact, if you guys just Google, I think you even Google AI, says hands, face, genitalia, you got to go to the ER and get this looked at. Another thing is, when do you, if you burn yourself, have to go and seek immediate attention? If it's not healing, if it's oozing, those are bad signs. And so I can't explain why one doctor, there is an explanation. I went to a really good medical school. I went to University of Nevada, Reno. And I got to tell you, and then at my last year, I went to UCLA. But what I got taught, and this, my burn care was through the UNR, University of Nevada, Reno School of Medicine. I got to tell you, all it took was one doctor telling me something, and it was only one doctor who said that. But I remembered it. Just like the one doctor said, any sign of blood in the stool, they really should be evaluated and make sure you don't have colon cancer. Some other doctors didn't get that. And one of my colleagues missed a colorectal cancer and the patient died. And I'm like, why didn't you send them to GI right away? That's how I was learned. So sometimes it is a different teacher. But there are standards of care and there's also common sense. And so if you're frustrated that you're getting different advice from the doctor, go with the one who's being more conservative. Now, many of you are like, look, every doctor's trying to cover their ass. They're all going to say to go in and get seen. Well, you are going to probably get that advice because, we don't want to miss something. We don't want you to be having pneumonia and at home and it going into sepsis. We don't want you having a melanoma that's growing and nobody's looking at it. Okay, we want you seen. But some of you have the argument, and justifiably so, that the doctor doesn't do anything. You go in and nothing gets done. Then you need to ask for a doctor who will do something. And then I told you how to address medical providers that aren't spending any time with you. What you need to do is ask them specifically, with the nurse or witness in the room, how do I know this spot isn't skin cancer? Do I need a biopsy? How do I know this leg swelling isn't a blood clot? How do I know this pneumonia won't go into sepsis or kill me? What should I be doing? Where should I go? How do I know? This chest pain, how do I know it's not a sign of coronary artery disease? That doctor should stop and either explain the signs you need to look for or actually do the testing. If they just walk out and don't listen to you, you got to get a new doctor. And it's tough because you guys didn't go to medical school. And so you shouldn't be expected to know these things. But I can't tell you how many times I saved my kid's life just because I knew something. And I asked, I go, guys, can somebody check the baby monitor? His heart rate's in the 40s. Where's the staff? What's going on, guys? You don't give an MMR to a 4-month-old. You give the MMR vaccine when they're a year. Come on, people. Not saying he would have died from that, but there's mistakes being made, a lot of medical errors. But one big error is not getting the testing or, getting something looked at. Look at how many cases we talked about on the show where somebody had a severe illness, Parkinson's, mini strokes, breast cancer, but they were quote unquote blown off by the doctor. So I try to teach you guys as much as possible on the show. And ask, you can always email us, drdahlia.com. You can always email us. I won't be able to give medical advice, but I can at least tell you what to ask your doctor and how to word it. and say, look, I've been having this breast pain. I know you did a mammogram, but should I, be doing something more? How do I know this isn't a form of breast cancer that the mammogram is not picking up? And see what their answer is. And if it's reassuring and it makes sense, all right, do your follow-up test. But if you're like, I don't think it's good enough, then you get a second opinion. You have every right to get a second opinion. It's your body. 1-877-Doc-Dolly.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regenerations. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So one thing I didn't share with you guys, because usually I take pictures or selfies when I get my colonoscopy or when I get my mammogram, is about 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago, I got a breast MRI because I'm high risk for breast cancer. And I didn't share that with you for a couple reasons. One is when you do the breast MRI, you're on your stomach, okay? And you have to put one breast on one side, one breast on the other, so you're down. So I really couldn't take pictures like what I do with my mammograms. My hair is horrible, by the way. We're like, I'm getting my mammogram done. It was a little bit more difficult because, you're kind of lying down. The techs that were in the room, they were two gentlemen. They were really, really good with this. And they go, okay, so you're going to have to put, one breast, on and I go, can I swap them? Can I put the right one and that one and the left? They go, no. I go, I'm able to. They go, yeah, but no, just put the right breast in the right cubby and the left breast in the left cubby. And it took about 25 minutes. I remember I hurt my rotator cuff, doing some virtual racket game and pickleball. So that was a little difficult because you had to stay still and you had to have your arms up. So you're looking like Superman while there. So I didn't do any pictures of that because it was not fun. I wore underwear. They usually don't have you wear underwear, because in case there's metal in it, but they know I'm a Hanes Herway girl, so they were like, okay, your underwear's fine, so you can wear underwear. And I was in a gown, and then they put a blanket over me. So I guess I could have done a picture, but yeah, you guys are like, thank God for that. But the other reason why is I was afraid of the results. Why would I be getting a breast MRI when I've been doing my mammograms and I've been doing my ultrasounds? Well, when you're at high risk for breast cancer, there's mammography, which is fantastic, ultrasound, especially if you have dense breasts. But if you satisfy certain criteria, they're going to want to pick up on the breast cancer as early as possible. So those who qualify are those who have the BRCA1, BRCA2 gene mutation. Now, I don't have those, thank God. But because I have a family history of breast cancer, that already puts me at risk. And then also, German descent, Ashkenazi, European, descent can also put you at risk. What minimizes your risk is if you breastfed, which I did, had babies, didn't smoke. There's a lot of risk factors for breast cancer. But if there's a family history, or if you have the BRCA gene mutation, or if you have some of these genetic disorders that could put you at risk, they're going to suggest that you do an MRI. And they do a breast cancer risk assessment tool, or the Gale model, to help professionals estimate your risk of getting invasive breast cancer. And so, if you have the BRCA gene testing, if you've had previous breast cancer, if you've had previous biopsies, if you've, or issues, I had an intraductal papilloma, which wasn't cancerous, but, being that I have had surgery because I had to have a biopsy, that is a concern. So you might qualify for an MRI of the breast if your greater lifetime risk of breast cancer is at least 20%. So that means, even though 1 in 8 women get breast cancer, my risk might be more like 1 in 5 or 1 in 4. And so it's an important thing to look at. If you have a genetic syndrome like Lee-Fraumeni, Cowden syndrome, Benayan-Riley-Ruvalcaba syndrome, you also may be at risk. Also, if you got radiation therapy, let's say you had cancer, or you had and they did radiation therapy on you when you were a teenager, young woman, you might need to get an MRI. And so I have my results here. So they say, patient was laying in prone position. She was very talkative, and techs had to ask her to stop talking. Her breasts would move when she talked, so image is limited. Okay, that's okay. I did talk a lot. They asked me not to talk. They gave me music. They said, let me see. They said there were post-operative changes compatible with history of mastopexy. Yes, I did have some plastic surgery. No implants, but I had a lift. And then they said, right breast, no suspicious masses. Hallelujah. Left breast, no suspicious masses. No enlarged lymph nodes in the right axilla or the left axilla or internal mammary chains. Hallelujah. For me, they recommend continued annual screening mammography in 6 months, which would be November for me, according to the American College of Radiation guidelines. Although they kind of have a caveat here. They want me to not give the techs a hard time again. And so it says here, which I won't go into. So I go in for my mammogram. They're like, okay, ma'am, you need to lift up your breast into the machine. And I'm like, I got bad shoulders. Just bring the machine down. Like, we can. It only goes down a certain level. I go, but it's easier for you to bring the machine down than me to lift up the breast. And I go, by the way, I also think I'm starting to form a bunion. So maybe you could get both at the same time. Ma'am, lift the breast. Okay. Then we got other patients waiting. So by the time they've asked me to maybe curtail some of the pre-mammogram discussion in the future. They said, given lifetime risk of breast cancer is greater than 20%, recommend an annual breast MRI with contrast for high-risk screening in 1 year. And please do so quietly, Mrs. Wax. Okay, so it's Dr. Wax, but thank you. No, so they did a good job. They really did a good job. But you see, my lifetime risk is 20%, which is a concern. So for those of you that are like, well, how do I qualify? How do I know? Let your doctor do the cancer risk assessment tool. Let them look at, and obviously, don't smoke. I mean, that's important. If you didn't breastfeed, I know breastfeeding is protective. I breastfed, but I could only do it for about 6 weeks. It was really hard because I was working and I wasn't producing a lot of milk, but that still gave me some protection, which is why for those of you thinking, should I breastfeed or not? I would definitely urge breastfeeding. One, not only does it improve your risk of getting breast cancer, it helps you bond. You aren't going to sleep much, but honestly, the baby is getting nutrients and they're getting natural milk, which I think is really, really important. And there's been so many, this is assuming you don't have hepatitis or HIV or things that can pass through the breast milk, or you aren't on medications that can pass through the breast milk. But a biggie is, look at what happened when the Abbott production company for formula had to close because they thought there was a Chronobacter Nakazaki outbreak. And from what I understand, Abbott Pharmaceuticals said that the the inspection said it wasn't from there. They got able to reopen, but we had such a massive formula shortage that I've now seen a lot more women breastfeed. They're like, I want to make sure my baby can eat because, once you dry up your milk, it's almost impossible to get your milk to come back again unless you're pregnant again. I mean, there's ways to do it to get you lactating again, but it's harder. So if you're able to breastfeed, do it. Especially, in case we have another shortage and it's really healthy for baby. It's talk to your medical provider. Now, how much was it? Again, I have an Obamacare high deductible plan, so my out-of-pocket cost was still at least $500. But I got my deductible. I don't know why the plans are still crappy. We got to probably do something with the subsidies and get insurance to stop. But so my out-of-pocket cost was about $500. However, you might have better insurance. I mean, a non-Obamacare plan, or you might have had a employer-based plan with the lower deductible, so that it might just be a copay. But and people always ask, well, why then are you doing that? Then why not do mammograms then? Why not just do MRIs? Why would you do mammograms, et cetera? Because still, mammograms are the standard. And mammograms are a fantastic tool. Mammograms are really, really good. We've gotten really good at picking up breast cancer on mammograms. And if you have dense breasts, then we also ultrasound. So these things are excellent. You could get an MRI once a year, but I would not skip. The mammogram. The mammogram is crucial. It's important. And so I kind of like what we're doing now, and who knows, it might change in 10 years, but where your high-risk people get their mammogram and ultrasound, and then they get an MRI at the other, part of the diameter of the year. So every 6 months, somebody's watching you. So that, God forbid, you do get it, we could catch it at stage 0. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So gas prices are up, flights are up, and a lot of us have traveled this summer. And your kids are out of school for the next 3 months, which I think is ridiculous. Our kids are losing at least 4 years in their childhood where they could be getting education. And unfortunately, they're off. And I wish school was year round. I feel bad for the teachers. I know the teachers need a break, but maybe have some teachers work the first 9 months, other teachers work the second 9 months, something like that, so they can still get their 3-month vacation. But many of you are kind of panicking because you're like, we got to get out of Dodge, and it's just too damn expensive. So let's talk about some ways to save some money for travel. All right. Some are pretty obvious. If flying is too expensive, use a car. I understand gas could be pretty expensive, but there are multiple areas that you might not realize that you could get to. I mean, these are for people that don't already have a plan on where to go. They're like, I just got to get out of Dodge. And so one thing that I love to do with the family is go camping. And it gets you out of Dodge. Even if it's an hour or two away, get into the mountains, get to the trees, whatever, do some hiking, do some fishing. And you can make a really, really nice vacation of it. So find a place where you could drive an hour or two away, that a new camping spot, you're cooking your own meals. That could be pretty cheap, pretty inexpensive, very fun. You can bring the dogs. You don't need a dog sitter. But let's say you're traveling somewhere, you're flying somewhere, and it could be pretty costly, and hotel rooms are higher. And trust me, these places are going to really try to cash in on the summer travel. Hotels are a little tricky with how many people you could have in the room. But I love the idea of people traveling together, renting an Airbnb, renting a home or something like that. If you rent a place and you have everybody chipping in, that could really save you some bucks. So think about, combining, and let's say you need to, go somewhere and use transportation. Okay. If you could get like an Uber XL, which can hold 6 people or whatever, you guys could split the fees. It could be cheaper. Although I don't know if Uber's getting pretty damn expensive. I had to take Uber in Panama City and it was like $70 from the hotel. When my flight got, pushed out and I was going to miss my connecting, I had to go back to the hotel for a second day in a row. I had to Uber that time and it was still a pretty penny. So then look at public transportation. And if it's not a dangerous area, and you guys have a big group, use public transportation. You should not be renting a car when you go to New York City. Now, I understand there's the railroad strike and things like that, but there's ways to get around that are pretty cheap. So really consider options as opposed to, unless you have a bunch of you and you want to rent a minivan and you guys could fit 6 to 8 of you guys, then it might be worth it. Interestingly, there's people looking for house sitters and dog sitters. And if you're going to a place and you love animals, sometimes if you're house sitting, you could stay in that place for free. And they're going to clean it up because they aren't going to want to be embarrassed. So that, if you have to like dogs, but you got a small family, and you're like, look, I'm going to be in town, and I love animals, and I want to house sit. Here's proof that I'm an animal lover. Get a relationship with them, and maybe you'll be able to house sit, and there's your free rent. Something to think about. If you're flying, I think we've all learned it doesn't pay to bring on a suitcase. These suitcases are now $35, $45 away. You could be spending close to $100 extra per person for the flight just to bring a suitcase. So don't pack light. In fact, my husband gave me his backpack for one trip. So one of the reasons why I always have a suitcase is I have to bring my own pillow and blanket. I just do. I don't do well with other hotels' pillows. I'm not worried about the germs. It's not soft. I have like this down comforter, whatever. So I know how to roll it real tight. And he has one of those backpacks, backpacking backpacks. So I could put my pillow and my blanket all rolled up on the backpack. Now, I know some of them say your overhead, personal item has to fit in whatever. But then I could carry my pillow. So this could be my overhead, and then I could carry my pillow. I don't bring a purse. I have a fanny pack. And sometimes I'm like, well, that's too much stuff. Then I just put the fanny pack in the backpack, and I'm good. Pack snacks. Don't eat at the airport. The airport's expensive. Eat before you go to the airport. And pack some healthy snacks that won't perish. Like non-perishable, like celery sticks, things like that would be pretty good. And also, don't go out to eat. Most rooms have a refrigerator, like a little one and things like that. Or get an ice chest. So the first thing we always do whenever we go on vacation is we hit Costco or we hit Target or Walmart and we buy some bagels, some cream cheese. Sometimes we go get a cheap cooler, put some ice in it if there's no fridge in the room, or there's ice in the hotel, or there's a it saves you a lot of money. A lot of people say, well, get a hotel room where the breakfast is included. Yes, if you notice it's the same price. But if you're spending $80 more a day and you're getting, a continental breakfast, you could actually, do more on your own. So sometimes kind of, look at that as well. Senior discount. If you ask about the discounts they have. First responder discounts. If you're a nurse, some of them even have teacher discounts. And sometimes they'll just give you a discount because you're cool. It happens. So ask and you shall receive. Another thing that last year I had to go to Omaha. This trip, it was good. But last year, for some reason, the hotel rooms were $500-$600 a night in Omaha because there was some event. So to heck with that, I stayed in a city 15-20 minutes away. And the hotel rooms were then $150 a night, something cheaper. So, depending on where you need to go, you don't always have to be right in the center of Boston or right in because they know that people are going to be trapped. And they do that because they think you're not going to have transportation. But if you know how to take a train, take a subway, know how to take a bus, or you're already figuring out transportation, either by Uber or whatever, you're going to save money on the hotel room. And so that's pretty important. Another thing also is, which I've done, is let's say you do have to be in an area where the hotel rooms are going to be kind of more expensive. But you're like, I really don't need them all those days. Okay, then split it up. Stay in two separate places. You're allowed. And then another thing that's really cool is the day use. So what's interesting, and this is really cool that I discovered, because sometimes my flight lands at like 7 a.m. or 11 a.m. And they won't let you check in till 4. These hotels won't let you check in till 4. And so everybody wants to eat. Well, some of these day use rooms, they'll rent out a room for like $45, sometimes less, sometimes more. And sometimes it includes that hotel's breakfast. So you guys could eat. There's 4 of you, right? We only did this once because we did a red eye to Boston and our hotel wouldn't let us check in till 4 and it was expensive. So we took a day use and there was breakfast. We were able to take a nap, shower. I was able to do some work before I went to the more expensive hotel. All right? So look at the day use because some of these hotels you could get in for the day cheaper. I mean, another thing, too, is, they let you be there for like 8 hours. So let's say you're going to go out at night and you're going to be partying all night. Well, then maybe just rent the day use and then come back the next day. So there's a lot of ways you can make things cheap. But, to just recap, because we're almost at the end, try to travel with others. Try to cook and pack some of your meals. Don't be big on the souvenirs. The souvenirs I like to do is, like a flower or like a seashell or something like that. Don't bring back volcanic rock, but there are certain things that, do you really have to, buy tequila glasses? If somebody wants, you to bring them back a souvenir, you'll always have some annoying friend saying, bring me back a souvenir. Just order it on Amazon when you're back home. They don't know. But there's ways to save money if you can. And don't forget to camp. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. Super Bowl champ Vernon Davis here from Legal Help Center. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up, because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. You can find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. The call is free, the consultation is free, and you can speak with a live agent right now. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, call now to find out if you have a case and how much you could potentially get.
Thanks, Vernon. You heard it, folks. If you've been injured, call and find out how much you qualify for. Call 800-679-0800. That's 800-679-0800. 800-679-0800. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.